You know what I'm just thinking? I feel like in the full episode we just recorded, did we ever do that? This is the Witch's Magic Murder Mystery, and this is Megan and Kara.
don't know that we
I don't
did.
think we did because I'm pretty sure we got distracted by the person who parked
We
outside.
So should we say that and you add it, or do we just...
No, just if you listened
know
last
who we
Friday,
are.
you know that we forgot. I'm Megan.
I'm Kara.
Sometimes we forget. I think that might be the very first time we actually left it out of the episode completely.
It's totally fine. They're going to be more entertained by our curiosity.
Anyway, hello.
Hey, guys.
It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday, and I'm Kara.
And I'm Megan. We're going to remind you several times throughout this episode to make up for that one time we forgot.
We're so sorry, guys.
I have a story for you
A
today
side piece.
that came from Quinn, who messaged us on Instagram forever ago.
I love getting messages from you all.
Mhm.
And listen, we've got a long list that
There's
we're
a long
just
backlog.
chipping away at. So just love us.
And sometimes I'm in the mood for certain stories
Exactly.
and not others.
Exactly. Or we
And-
already had one in our mind that we were going to
Mhm.
do.
And if you have sent us something and we haven't replied, don't worry, we will.
Yeah, we'll
We're
get
just behind on everything in
Yeah.
life.
you.
So here's the message from Quinn. Hey, y'all, I have a side piece idea for you. I live in Pepperell, Not
Pepperell?
sure, Massachusetts. And we have a local legend of the Nissitissit witch, and then told us how to pronounce Nissitissit because Quinn
Words are hard.
is brilliant. The Nissitissit River runs through our town, and the legend says she cursed the local millers for ruining the river, and they all had terrible accidents.
I glanced at that and thought that said accents, and I was like, yes!
She cursed them, and that's where the Boston accent came from. No, just kidding. There's nothing wrong with
Nothing
the Boston accent.
Wrong with an accent. As Kelsey and I were in line one time at a place in Nashville for food. We were in line and these guys were like, where are you all from? And Kelsey's got a...
They're in Nashville.
Well, Kelsey's got a thicker accent than I do,
Mhm.
but I don't really sound like I'm from Kentucky. She does. We're talking to them and we're like, where the heck are you all from?
Mhm.
Like, you're not from the South. And they were from Boston.
It's a thick accent.
They wanted to talk to us the whole time, and Kelsey and I were like, I guess we'll entertain this. It's not as cool, but sure.
Boston accent.
Boston.
Okay, Pepperell, Massachusetts. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Quinn, in the future, when you message this, could you just pronounce every single word?
Spell it all out, please.
It has a population of about 11,600 people as
Okay.
of 2020.
Okay.
And includes the village of East Pepperell. It used to include the village of North Pepperell,
Mm.
but these days there's hardly anything left of North Pepperell. Once a bustling village located along the Nissitissit River with a sawmill, grist mill, cloth mill, blacksmith, cigar manufacturer,
Wow.
a school, and a tavern.
Oh.
All that's left of North Pepperell now are a few rock walls in the woods. It was settled in 1702,
Mhm.
and by 1900, it was gone.
Oh.
I think it was gone a little bit earlier than 1900,
Yeah.
but you'll see as I get going.
Okay.
So why did it disappear?
Right.
As Quinn told us, a curse.
Right.
So
Yes.
let's
The river.
learn. There's a river full of memory. Right after the War of 1812,
Mhm.
an old woman moved to North Pepperell. Her name might have been Mrs. Lovejoy, but we're not entirely sure.
Okay.
But I'm going to call her that because it makes my life easier.
Right. Yeah.
So just know,
It may or may not be
some
this name.
records don't name her at all.
Gotcha.
Other ones call her Mrs. Lovejoy.
Okay.
So, like I said, she's this old lady who moved to North Pepperell, and we are hundreds of years past the witch trials, but still, if you were a weird woman, New England was not
Not your
the place
not
for
your
you.
place.
And Mrs. Lovejoy was absolutely considered weird by the industrious Puritan folk back then.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, even if we take away the witch part,
Right.
there's this thing that I learned about while researching this story that I didn't realize happened and gives me lots of questions. In New England, if you were poor, you were the town's responsibility.
Oh.
So if you were poor and homeless, like the town, would there be these town meetings where the poor people
Uh-huh.
were auctioned off to whoever asked for the smallest stipend. And then the town would pay for that.
Oh.
So you would take them in, and usually the poor person would work off, in some form of labor. Feels a little weird. Yeah. You could just go buy a poor person.
Yeah. I'm
I mean-
thinking
Isn't what I just
Drew Barrymore. What was that movie we both loved? Ever
Ever
After.
After, where he gets to
Yeah.
go buy her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she was a servant.
Yes.
There'd be an auction, and someone would be like, I'll take her for X amount of money.
Right.
The town would give that person the stipend and the poor person.
Mhm.
And then that poor person would probably just go earn their keep by working off
Yes.
the debt.
Yes.
So that's how that worked. So
Okay.
if you're a new poor person,
Uh-huh.
as this old lady was,
Okay.
you're basically just seen as like this new financial liability, and the town doesn't need more of that. So they look at you and they're like, ugh, she's going to cost me more money.
Ugh, here we go.
This whole auction off the poor thing still happened as late as 1832. So it was still happening at the time that she would have shown up.
Okay, gotcha.
So I'm not sure that that's, what's going on, but I'm just saying these are the context. All this to say, when this new old lady showed up in North Pepperell, if she didn't seem like she could take care of herself, it seems likely the town would be looking for ways to get rid of her.
Oh.
There's also a theory that she was a Quaker. And back in the 16th century in Massachusetts, they executed Quakers.
Right.
And we're in the 1800s at this point, way past the repeal of any anti-Quaker laws. Yeah. But also look at like racism in the United States. Yeah. We're,
we're still there.
Theoretically, way past like the civil rights and everything. But that kind of evil lingers.
Yes.
So, could be that she was Quaker and people didn't like her for that reason. For whatever reason, here's a list of the terrible, horrible, no good things people did not like about Mrs. Lovejoy. Are you ready?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, prepared to be shocked. This is really...
Okay, let's go.
She's real bad.
She's hated. Okay.
She lived by herself.
How dare she?
Oh,
was she an outspoken woman?
Well, she didn't really talk to people.
Oh, that's true. This is true, which is
she had the audacity to like not feel the need to be polite.
To not smile at people when they asked him to?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Not only that, Kara, but she also lived in an abandoned building near the school. She lived in a shack, basically.
In a little shack?
By herself.
Because she was poor. Mm-hmm. How dare she? Okay.
Yeah. How dare she find shelter?
Correct.
Her yard was filled with stones and rubble. Her pigs and her cows roamed the neighbors' fields.
Maybe because they kept getting out of the fence, but okay.
And she wore a handkerchief over her head. That, I feel like, is the worst.
That's the worst. How dare she cover herself?
Just run her out of town.
Burn her at the stake.
Guard your children. Lock your windows. Lock your doors.
Put your animals away.
Clearly people were like,
hide your wife.
That's a witch. Yeah. Hide your kids, hide your wife.
And hide your husbands.
So in 1820, three heroes
saved. If He-Man must be so manly that if he were to jump off a building, he would go out of his way to land on a girl. Quoting the Little Rascals.
These three stud muffins
manly men
into Mrs. Lovejoy's shack. This elderly lady. They went into her shack and dragged her outside.
They did. They saved that town.
They took a hot iron rod and they branded her.
Holy crap, no.
Well, what else were they supposed to do, Kara?
Well,
she was there wearing a handkerchief.
They gave her the mark.
By herself and not talking to people.
Gave her the mark of the beast. Poor Miss Lovejoy.
And that's when Mrs. Lovejoy unleashed these words.
She spoke.
This village will die. Flames will devour your businesses. The river will dry up. Death will visit each house.
Each house?
And then she pieced right out of that town.
Bye, Felicia's.
Deuces. Yeah, she's gone.
Y'all can't.
She gone.
Y'all can't at me.
So the citizens of North Pepperell, they all high-fived themselves for saving the town from this terrifying little old lady who had the audacity to wear a handkerchief around her.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then the sawmill burned.
Didn't know.
After that, the grist mill. And then the village's other businesses too. So the industry in this bustling town, all of this went up in flames.
Consumed the business.
This village
will burn.
Yeah.
And strange.
They didn't all happen at once.
Okay.
But over time.
That's their demise.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, thank God they got rid of her.
Thank God she's no longer there, just keeping the peace.
Yeah. Thank God she's not there living by herself in front of people.
Mm.
There were plans to rebuild, but then the dam broke.
Oh, what? Huh.
The water level sank, and this meant that there wasn't a good place to put a mill anymore.
I'm sorry, the water dried up?
Mm-hmm.
What?
And then there's the deaths. A 4-year-old boy drowned in the river.
Oh, no.
A man died when he tripped over a chair and instantly broke his neck.
Okay.
Another man fell off his wagon when his horses got startled by something invisible. Some guy choked to death in front of his family at the dinner table. And a woman went to the barn to milk some cows and was never seen again. I'd like to cover that story, but I can't find anything else about her. But you know me, I'm like, never seen again.
Never seen
What?
it again. Missing persons?
So then people started leaving town. Like between the talk of the curse and the fact that the industry had completely died out, there just wasn't a good reason to stay.
"Oh, can't do this."
The curse seems to have died right along with the town. The last of North Pepperell's residents were two elderly sisters who died in a fire that started in the woods near their house.
Oh.
That happened in 1900.
Okay.
But like I said, those are the last two residents.
Right.
And so I feel like the town died out a little before then.
Right.
But, so for what it's worth, neither of the articles I read had any proof that Mrs. Lovejoy actually existed, like in town records or whatever.
Okay.
Not sure. Like she probably wouldn't have paid taxes. Like I don't know what record there
If
would
she
have
was
been.
poor and no one purchased her, then there's
Mhm.
probably not going to be any record if she's just like going from town to town.
If she came into town and then left. So I'm not sure.
Mhm.
But also, apparently fires weren't unusual in mills because like they had a lot of flammable materials in them and they were just
Oh.
made out of wood, you know?
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
Also, by the late 1800s, factories were taking over, so mills weren't as big of a thing.
Okay.
So they might have just stopped rebuilding because of that.
Yeah.
A town whose base is industry and mills wouldn't survive because people are going to move to places where there are jobs.
Yeah.
Still, the Nissitissit witch legend has hung around for hundreds of years. Why do these legends exist? I go on a little rant.
Because they're creepy.
Well, because people have notoriously rejected anything that doesn't just
Exactly.
fall in line.
Yep.
So, like,
If it's not their normal, then it shouldn't
Yeah.
exist.
how many stories do we hear?
Mhm.
We've covered several of them on this podcast about witches.
Yeah.
Grace Sherwood is the first one that
Mhm.
comes to mind, but also Mother Shipton. Like,
Yeah.
if you're different,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna get accused of,
Yeah.
different automatically means bad.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll figure out a way to
Yeah.
label you as that. And it's
Yeah.
very frustrating. And sometimes it's like things like this. So it's a believable legend, right? Like
Oh,
whether
yeah.
she existed or not, it almost doesn't even matter because
Right.
whether this is true, there's a bunch of other women who were the Nissitissit witch of their community, right?
Yeah.
And so I put in here, I was like, pep talk time?
Should we talk about?
Because I just think about my kids because, my daughters both listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, just be better.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
stop villainizing people just because they're different.
Well, and also don't judge other people because someone told you to.
Mm-hmm. I love these women who do live differently than the rest of the community.
Yeah.
Because I have this thing that I've had to start telling myself every now and then where I think I don't have to believe what other people say about me,
Right.
which has been very helpful. And I think these women are able to live that in a way
Yeah.
that is like, they can be what they want because they're just
Mhm.
not worried about.
Right.
They know that they're not bad. They know they're not
Right.
evil. They know whatever. So
Yeah.
they get to live their life however makes them
Yeah.
happy. Right.
Yeah. But that
And I love that.
people hate that
I know. And I'm just like, why do people hate that?
because they're miserable themselves and they need something to be miserable about.
Yeah. I think you're right.
And if someone's happy, they don't understand how they can't have that happiness too. So
Yeah.
they're
It's
just
like, how
I need
dare
to-
you be happy? What
Yeah.
do you have to be happy?
Exactly. You're living this weird little life that I think is weird. So I'm just going to say that you should be miserable as well. Because why would you be happy with that kind of
Yeah.
lifestyle?
Like you have the,
Yeah.
you have the
The
nerve
audacity to live,
to not hate yourself.
Yeah.
What the crap?
to have confidence.
Can't you just hate your life like the rest of us?
please just be miserable?
Like, what if we all just worried about ourselves?
I mean,
What would that be like?
What would this world be?
So the witch hunt thing, obviously it's got these really old connotations, but it
Yes.
still happens
Right.
today
Oh my gosh.
in
yeah.
different contexts.
Uh-huh.
I mean, in little ways, like I'm sure what all of us have dealt with at some point in
Yep.
our lives, but also in big ways. Like I keep thinking about the Memphis 3.
Mhm.
That was a total witch hunt on
Oh my
those
God,
dudes.
yes.
And have you heard the recent stuff with them where
No.
they were able to like petition to get new DNA tests ran and the state won't do it? They refuse to do it.
What?
Why would you not run more tests?
Yeah.
Your tests could even prove you were right.
Exactly,
Like
yeah.
if you are just convinced that those
Yeah.
Memphis 3 guys are guilty,
Right.
P.S. they're not.
Yeah.
This could prove you right. So why
Right.
would you? It's like you don't want to know
Yeah.
because you're so committed to your witch hunt.
Exactly.
It still happens today, but we don't know. We can't find a lot of verifiable information to prove if this legend
Yeah.
happened or not. But I don't think it matters. It's still
I don't think so either.
representative.
Yeah.
And it still has a good lesson about how you don't
Yes.
villainize people.
Right. yeah.
Thanks for sending that in, Quinn. I really,
Yes.
I
We
loved
love
reading
little
about
stories
it.
like that. Yes.
I always love it when I learn something I just didn't know at all. And I
Uh-huh.
really didn't know that whole thing of auctioning off the poor. What
Yeah.
in the world?
What y'all doing out there in those days?
What are you doing? Okay, so happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday, guys.
If you would like to get in touch with us at all, you can find all of the contact information for everything.
For
Facebook,
everything.
Instagram, email, Patreon,
All the show notes.
podcast store.
It's all there.
We are working on some new merch. And so if you're in the Patreon, you're probably going to see, it might not even be up before this episode, some stuff to vote on. Part of the new Patreon perks for the Body of a Goddess and Janet levels are that you're like a focus group. So you're going to help us pick
our
some
little
merch.
sounding board.
Yeah. And then the new iPhone wallpapers are in there, which I'm super excited about. Go check out the Patreon if you haven't already. If you're in the Patreon, go see all your goodies. And if you're not in the Patreon, maybe you should.
Yeah, and we'll have our episode. I'll have my episode because you already put yours up there to vote on. I'll have mine up there soon too.
Yeah, this Nissitissit, which was actually one of the options I had to vote on for the Patreon, but I could tell they weren't going to pick it. So, but I'm glad I did it since it's a little bit shorter. And I try to do longer ones for the Patreon, but I really wanted to cover it just because I love the witch stories.
Yes. So
okay, we love you guys.
Yeah, we do.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.